Hello, I'm male feminist Anders Bloom. Give you a big welcome.
Right, I'm here for another episode of Talk to Thorin, and my guest for this one is going to be JDC, obviously of big clan, but also spent a considerable amount of time in MOUZ organisation. Right, the first place I actually want to start JDC is because you came up in MOUZ NXT and with a lot of those other players where a lot of us got to know you. I actually thought you were younger than you are. Like, one thing I was kind of surprised by was I went back and I even saw some of that really early stuff where you were doing like interviews with Face It and stuff when you were coming through FPL. Like, you were kind of like a late bloomer for Pro CS, right? Like, you were around the scene, but you weren't at the top of the German scene for a long time, right? You were kind of like already up in your late teens before you got decent, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can say a late bloomer is pretty accurate. I've been playing full-time since like 2019, and I was around in the German scene. But like you said, I never really made the debut to like the better level internationally, especially. I don't know for what reason exactly, but maybe I was just not very known, and I never stood out to that extent where people really recognized that. So it was only through FPL and FPLC at that time that people made like a look on me as a German player coming into the international scene. But yeah, you are completely right. I was 21 at the time of NXT already. So when I got promoted to MOUZ, it was like I was nearly getting 23. So yeah, you can consider myself a bit of an older guy starting a bit later, yeah.
Because one thing I found quite interesting is nowadays people probably think of you more as like a leadership figure, a support player, like one of these sort of, like somebody who facilitates others. But I noticed in these early interviews, if anyone goes back, you thought you were like a top player, right? You were saying about how you were going to break an HLTV top 20 and stuff. Like, you're a pretty confident guy.
Yeah, I would consider myself pretty confident. And I to be fair, started off like thinking of myself as a star player. At least that's what I was aiming to be when I made this FPL run. It was a very successful time for me. I was making all those runs in the first attempt, averaging pretty good numbers in that game modes and especially in FPL. But as well, I'm a guy that puts the team first if it means that it creates success and like an environment where people are feeling well and we can win. So transitioning into like actually being in a team, I didn't really fill the role of a star player or as an entry like fragger or that. I became more of the supportive and leadership element that you said, which correlates with my strengths. I think I have that capability of supporting a team and like being that person that is a pillar. But it was never the direction I really wanted to go in the beginning, I really wanted to like display my individual strength and show the mechanical input I can give. But it just turned out to be that way.
Are you someone where, when you said there you don't really have an explanation for why you didn't like make it to better teams in the German scene early on? Like, is the German scene like, is it one that's very political? Do you have to like know the right people? Do you think they just go off like eye test whoever has crazy numbers? What do you think it is? Because I notice actually it feels like in general the German scene is just every now and then. And remember, MOUZ at this point is already an international team. It's just when Big needs a new player basically. But there's always like most of the players Big's had have already been around years before in attacks, or if you go back years before all the other squads out there. So is there something tricky, do you think, about navigating the scene to get to the top?
I'm not completely sure. At that time, especially when I was climbing up, there were more international teams, national teams being full time, which now has changed drastically. There is no real German competition at the moment, and no real talent rising up. But we had like attacks, like you said, we had Sprout at that time, and we had even Unicorns of Law, where I was paying full time salaries, and like Mountain Dew League, all of that kind of level. But yeah, you are right. I think I never really got the reason for me not making the German path, because normally you transition from like Division 1 99 damage or what a ESL Meisterschaft team to a like attacks and then to a big potentially. I think I had a kind of a bad reputation, I think. Okay. From what I've heard in the past, and especially when I joined Big now, people in Germany thought, first of all, I will say it out like directly because I'm a very direct guy. People thought I'm a dick for some reason, okay. And that I'm like,
were you trash talking
like
people or something?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was always this like more positive guy, and I really didn't know where it came from. Even when I joined Big, tabseN went to me and he's like, "I'm really happy you turn out to be the guy you are, because I heard stuff you're a complete asshole, and I was really worried when we picked you up that you're gonna like bring the team down and stuff." I'm like, what? Where did you hear that from? So, and people, I have to say it as well, thought in Germany that I'm more of the dumber spectrum of people, or especially in-game wise. that, I mean, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. You know, I'm not judging them. But it went around in the German scene that they only saw me as a good guy mechanically, but not understanding the game into like a deeper depth, you know? So I think that's the reason I never really had the chance until MOUZ came and all of that stuff.
One thing I did find interesting, though, when I just dug into the old, like really old teams before anyone would know you, is you actually did play at one point in time in that Panthers team with mantuu, who obviously now people would know he played in big later, and obviously the OG and all that jazz, right? This is the era, as far as I know, though, where he wasn't an AWPer, right? Like, who was mantuu back then?
mantuu was a very interesting character back in the time. I mean, it was like 2017, 2018 with mantuu. He was not an AWPer, actually. Like, he was mainly a rifler. But it kind of transitioned into we benched our AWPer at that time, and we didn't have an AWPer right there. And he was like, yeah, I can do it. You know, he was very mechanically gifted as well, right? He could fill all the roles. So he was like, yeah, let me try to pick up the AWPer and let's just see how it goes. And we really we recognized pretty fast that he's good at it and that he's better than the AWPer we previously had. And we should probably continue with him doing so. And yeah, I mean, mantuu and me had a great relationship at that time, and we still do. A couple of times talk to each other. But yeah, he transitioned into a great AWPer.
Right. One of the things that obviously was key in your career was to get into this NXT team, which was the academy team of MOUZ. And I always think people aren't even aware of this. Not only were their academy teams quite rare, but crucially, one of the reasons why was the problem that you have now in CS. People were worried that if the team gets any good, well, they're going to be in the same open bracket qualifier that we all are, and you can only enter one team. So a key thing was to have this We Play Academy League. And in a weird way, it was actually perfect for you guys, because if people don't know, it was basically like the only sort of LAN tournament that existed in Counter-Strike during COVID. Like, everyone else was just playing online cops, essentially, even the best players in the world. But then they would have in Ukraine this like LAN setup of like a proper studio or whatever. And in a weird way, it gave a spotlight to a level of CS that at the time no one ever watched. I mean, if people don't know, back then, Monacy was the star of this league for Navi, yes. And you had, like, on your team, obviously there was like torzsi and xertioN and like people who are like the top players now in this league with us. So can you give me some thoughts on this time? Like, when you joined that team, for example, back then, I don't know if people think joining an academy team ever gets you the top team. Did it actually seem like a way to progress your career? What was it like to join this project?
It's a very good question, because like when I got the offer first in the beginning for the academy team, I really didn't want to do it for those reasons. I had developed an ego at that time already, where I believe I can be better. And in my head, it was joining an academy team would probably stagnate me, or maybe not even get me to where I want. But then We Play came along, and like you said, those guys did an amazing job. I think We Play Academy was one of the best things that could have happened to the scene and to develop young players. I give like huge credit to them. And yeah, joining the project, then you quickly realized what kind of traction it got. Like, playing in the tournament, the amount of people actually like paying attention to the players, performing well, like Monacy. We had Bid, we had xertioN. You know, I was dropping high numbers in that time as well. Like, a lot of people that are, like you said, are now in the top. Even Dong was playing some academy seasons, right? And then he just became the monster he is today. So it was a great opportunity, and in my eyes, the perfect timing to do so. You know, it was like a very new thing to generate like better players.
In that team, since you would have been one of the older players, even though it's an academy team, were you more of like a captain type figure in that team? Were you someone taking some kind of a leadership aspect?
Yes. The way we treated it in the beginning was me being, like I said, the mental pillar. And since I've been playing full-time a lot already, and I was very experienced to the degree at that time, I was trying to fulfill those shoes in being a leadership guy, in helping those guys deal with stress, dealing with emotions, dealing with how to perform under pressure, all of that. And while still developing myself, obviously, and learning it, right? I was not nowhere near good at that time compared to the standards now. But yeah, I was trying to take on the leadership role and helping. I mean, as well, suihy, when he joined at that time, he was not really, he never IGL'd. It was an entry fragger in Isako Boas who transitioned into the IGL role. So it was me and sycrone really trying to like, how do you say it, emphasize on a philosophy, how to build a system, how to enable players, and then me kind of like going away from it slowly so suihy can take over in sycrone, and then just like being a player.
One thing that actually people might not know as well is obviously by now the joke is everyone except Brolan in current MOUZ is from MOUZ NXT at one point in time. Like even Jimpphat was from like the later era, you know. But people might not realise, as far as I know, you were the first one to get promoted, right? You were the first one to go to the real MOUZ proper team, right?
I was the second one because torzsi got it first. He was the torzsi sycrone got promoted, but it happened pretty quickly. It was like 3 months after it, I think. I replaced NBK at that time, who was
like a veteran.
Was kind of a he was a veteran, you know. But it was kind of a quick thing. It was a very it happened. torzsi got promoted, and then they got NBK, and it was in talks that I get promoted to the same time, but we delayed it a bit further.
Right.
And then it just kind of happened, you know. There was my first tournament was the RMR in Bucharest, so it got I got the call randomly. It was Dennis writing "Yo, by the way, you want to join the main team and help us out on the major?" And I'm like, what, really? You know, that's crazy. You know, it was so fast, but yeah.
What about, let me ask about some of the people then, obviously, that you played.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So, as I said before, to me, the three most obvious players, if you ever watched the We Play Academy, was Monasi on Na'Vi, he was just cracked out of his mind, and then the two on your team was, xertioN obviously was mega, but torzsi also was doing bonkers numbers, and he was also like an MVP type candidate. So, who was torzsi to you at this point in time? Like, people maybe know a bit about his personality, his game now, but who was he back then?
Oh, torzsi was an incredible player at that time. He's today, obviously. But from what I was seeing him to develop into was one of those, if not one of the best oppas in the world. The amount of firepower and skill he had in the NXT days, he was averaging a 130 rating. You know, he was destroying every tournament we were playing, every tier 2 tournament. And with the skill set he had, I was pretty sure he would be on that Monasi kind of career path. You know, he would be the next big thing. He's still on that path. He's one of the greatest oppa right now, in my eyes, right? But that was the guy. He was still the emotional guy he's today, hyping, screaming, celebrating. I think he is the emotional pillar in MOUZ right now. He's taking a lot of that. So, but he was just this talented young kid that is hungry to succeed. And he went along with it, grinding the game non-stop. And that was torzsi for me at that time.
One thing I do think, like I alluded to, people have come to know about him more. Maybe they knew his game the last few years, but because of his on-camera, he does a lot of the interviews now, believe it or not, in MOUZ. So one of the interesting things is, seems like a very emotional guy too, though. Like people have seen, for good and for bad, he's cried after games, and it seems like the moment, he feels the moment or whatever. What is he like as a personality?
I would describe him as a very cuddly person. He's a very friendly, very enjoyable guy that will make you smile. You know, if you spend some time with him, you will always just be laughing. You know, he's extremely funny. But like you said, he's emotional for sure. He just enjoys the moment. He lives in it. He feels pressure, obviously, and he's very hungry, like I said, for success. It makes him sad if he maybe doesn't perform too good. I'm talking back in those times. I don't know how he developed now, right? So maybe he's way different now, but at that time he was really upset if he didn't perform to the standard he set himself to, which, all the great guys have, right? It's very natural. If you want to be a top competitor, you have to have that attitude to some degree. And but I think he had it in control the longer it got into the season, you know? The more experience he gained, he understood how he handles himself and how he has to act out to get those numbers that he has constantly, more consistently.
One guy, you referenced him, the coach also. There's the other detail people always forget. I wish this guy did more podcasts because as a result, he hasn't sort of built his fame out. If sycrone had done a better job with his, he should have the same sort of fame that Ash from Gamer Legion does, where, he has a hype around him. If anyone says there's a coaching job, they always reference that. He's got the YouTube channel. But I see that he's more of just a coach guy who doesn't want to do the media stuff as much. But as a result, I have to ask you, because no one knows about this guy. I always tell people, it's not just that they promoted the players a couple at a time from the academy team. That was the academy team coach too. He was the coach of all you guys, and then he got to be in the main team, and then he also got to gradually integrate people in the roster. So who was he when he was in the academy team, and who is he as a coach? What's his style? What's his temperament? I don't think any of us outside of that team know him, bro. We don't know who this guy is. We just see him standing behind.
Yeah, I think Dennis, first of all, I will give him a lot of credit. I think he had a tremendous development as a human and a coach. When he came to us in NXT, he was freshly of the IGL role. He was IGLing in Sprout and all of those kind of teams. retired from IGLing to become a coach, and it was still his like very fresh experience in NXT. At that time, he was still a player, I would say. You know what I mean? It was not that he completely committed to the coach role. You know, he had his itchy fingers. He would do this instead and that, and it wasn't in the full trend. Like it didn't transaction completely into the coaching staff. But as long like he worked with Ola, the sport psychologist of MOUZ, he's still there. And the development he constantly took every day to become more of a leadership guy as well as a coach, to learn how to really interact with the players and have that authority without being toxic in a way. It's very important to have that balance. He just kept on improving, and he's pretty smart, you know, I give him that. Especially in CS terms, he really knows what he's doing. He understands the game on a very deep level. And him being a teacher, actually was a teacher in Denmark for CS in a campus. So him being a teacher in a way really helped with how he acts towards us as students, you can say, and how we collaborated like on a human level.
Is he someone where, at least in this time, does he try to have a lot of control over the team and the tactics and stuff? Does he give people room? What's he like in that sense?
He always gave people trust and room, and then like helped to guide them onto a direction if he noticed it wasn't really lining up. He's a guy that really believes into the system he creates and lets the people try to flourish in their own way. You know, he tries to have everyone fill out their strengths and develop so they are the player they can be and want to be. I think that's always where he tried to work his hardest, so everyone feels comfortable. Obviously, you cannot make it right for everyone in a team. There's always people that have to kind of step back for the others to shine. It's how it works. It's natural dynamics. But I think he was very open, and he was very he was just open in helping everyone try to feel comfortable as much as possible, you know?
One of the craziest things about your story is you go from literally playing the final of like your third WePlay season in a row to like almost immediately you're at Katowice. And bro, if you go and look up these games, the teams that you lose to is like FaZe, the one that wins fucking everything, including this tournament, and then like Zemu Vitality. Like this is a pretty crazy to go from like I'm playing academy teams to I'm on LAN versus like the best players in the world. Basically, that sounds wild.
I mean, it was a crazy experience for me, and it was, like I said, it happened very fast. Same with the promotion, but this was just a stand-in event for me, kind of like feeling the water, you know, see how everything is, as well testing me mechanically, right? I was at that time thinking I can be, you mentioned it in the FPL interview, all of that. I was believing I can be one of those top 20 players and all of that. So I wanted to see, let me play against those guys. Let me test the water. How do they shoot? How does it feel to play? I mean, I played a very good play-in stage in Katowice from what I remembered. I had a very good game against Entropic for qualifying, but I guess my ass kicked from FaZe and Vitality in that tournament. I remember it very briefly, but I had a 0-15 map on Nuke against Vitality, actually. No. Oh, yes. But I mean, it is part of the history, you know?
Sure.
But it was a very good experience, but it wasn't really my roles. You know, I had different roles in that stand-in period. I was replacing Bimas, I think, who was sick during COVID. So I just filled in the shoes there, but it was an incredible experience. And playing against those guys, you know, I felt like, not starstruck, but I was like, damn, now I'm here, you know? This is what I've been working for the last 7 years probably. So amazing.
As you say, even though on this tournament you do a stand-in, you played with NBK. After that, you like officially, when you joined the team properly, were replacing him. Now, what's funny, JDC, is this is just the nature of how sports works. Because at the time, he's like a super veteran. In fact, I think he even had a stat that he had like the most trophies, whatever, in CS at the time, or something crazy like that. Unfortunately, if someone didn't watch the Academy League and they don't know who you are, everyone's automatically just going to flame you, unfortunately, and be like, what the fuck? Well, hey, that guy's a legend. Why is he replacing him? Was there any awkwardness in coming into the team in that sense? Did you feel that people had expectations of you?
I try to disconnect my mind from that as much as I could, because I don't want to get infected too much by like outside things, you know. I try to focus on myself, but of course it did, you know. I was this completely unknown guy that comes up in a team. Everyone is expecting me to help this team grow to the next step. And I definitely could feel that as soon as I started not performing and like putting up those numbers, people were kind of expecting. I mean, I was like a 1009, you know, like 095 rating player at that time as an anchor. And I don't think people looked at it as this guy came up from the Academy League and he's developing into that team and into that role. It was more of this guy has to drop numbers. He's not. He's fucking trash. You know, that's at least how it felt at that time. So, yeah, pretty much that.
One thing that is quite cool in this first year, because if people remember, this is sort of, like I say, a transition period for MOUZ. Like over this year, gradually the NXT players come up, and then eventually it becomes really good, maybe towards the end of the year. But one of the coolest results, I assume, in your case, is why I ask you, is one of the best results of the year at a certain point was you made a run to the playoffs of Cologne. Now, if you were a German player, is it a big deal to get to go to the arena of the Lanxess and walk out and all that?
Yes.
Was that really like a dream?
That was an absolute dream. I think it's one of my biggest moments in my careers until now. Like the energy, the crowd, the people there, they were screaming my name, and it was very unimaginable to me, And it was an incredible run. We were down in the lower bracket. We kind of had our it was already a crumble period in the team where we had some struggles. After the tournament, we even made roster changes, right? So, but still, we went in there all in, and reaching that, it was, every German, I can tell you, every German player dreams of that. Everyone wants to play Cologne playoffs at least once and experience it, and I'm very grateful I had the opportunity to do so. And I will probably cherish this for forever. This got to be a story I will tell everyone that I will meet in the future. I'm very grateful for it.
And if someone just looks, to get to that point, you guys had to beat Heroic and Vitality. These are two of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, I think all the time I was in MOUZ, we still had a good ceiling, and we were beating a lot of good teams, but not consistently enough to actually get where we want. I think that was the biggest issue. We were never bad, at least how I look at it. But it was always, we are making playoff runs, we are getting there, but we are not good enough. We are losing in maybe semis, we are losing in quarters, but we are not there to beat all those teams on a regular basis. So same in Cologne playoffs, let's say. We beat Vitality to get there. We do this amazing run. Now we face Astralis. We get the first map. We lose out the series anyway. It's we are so far and close at the same time.
And then obviously the really epic result that year was at the major. You guys made the top 4. If people don't know, even that was actually supposed to be an underdog run, because everyone always thought the Cloud9 team should beat you in the quarterfinals, but for whatever reason, you guys got them. It was pretty epic. Give me some thoughts on this run. That's before that, just to get into the major is a big deal. This is going to the semis of the major.
Yeah, I think the Rio major was the biggest clicking point in the team. The way we bonded in that period, it was a very long period. We were 2 weeks on the road. We were in Brazil. We worked our asses off every day, communicating, trying to get the max out of it. And like you said, it was an underdog run, but we were kind of in the flow. It's tough to explain, but we were in this. We had a boot camp before we got into this tournament mode, and you could just feel the energy in the room that it kind of shifted towards, we want to be a championship team now and give it to us. We want to fight for it with everything we got. And we just, again, Rio major with Cologne, the top 2 things in my career. The run was incredible. Everything in Brazil was awesome. The way we connected all the guys, in my eyes, it forged friendships to this day that are lasting. And it was one of the biggest runs we ever had, right? For MOUZ now it became more of a standard, sure. But at that time, it was a top 3 in a major, especially for a German player. Yeah. It has not been done yet. So it was, for me, one of my biggest achievements. I was happy to the moon and back,
Also, the team that you lost to, the eventual winners, Outsiders, in this particular time period, you guys bizarrely just kept meeting them. Right before that, you played that Rotterdam Challenger event where you played them in the Zoop closer. In this major itself, people forget, you began the major by beating them in the BO1. That was the first map of the whole game. And these are all mega close games. Did it feel winnable against them? What is it like to play against that team? All fans hate that particular era of Outsiders where they do the GM. Is it real? Are they really that slow and fucking drawn out? What's it like?
Yes, it is completely real, and it was an awful game to play. Right. And we were always having the struggles against them. We faced them a lot of times. We lost to them in Rotterdam, as far as I remember. We beat them in Inferno, 13-7 or something in the BO1, but now we play the semis against them. They have this controlled style in a high pressure game, especially where the nerves will get to you at some point. You want to make a play, you want to make a decision, and they are just waiting. They're letting you come to them. It felt really bad. I think their style at that time was not figured out to the extent it is now. So it was kind of becoming meta, and everyone was they don't have answers for it yet. As well, we didn't have answers for it. We kind of got all the space on the map, but now what? Now you have to actually make the right plan, and we never really figured it out. So I have flashbacks in a negative way from that event and like serious only because I performed very poorly in it, and it was a very annoying game to play. You know, it felt like you were doing the things right, but you couldn't convert it, and it was just a tough way to lose the semis.
Right, being as you said, for the Cologne one, it wasn't long after Cologne, even though that was a good run, that xertioN got brought up from the academy team. I have a quick question on that, which goes immediately. It's just a sort of like a personality question. Why did they take so long to bring him up? Like I said, to me, the obvious two players were torzsi and xertioN. They both looked amazing, even from 2021, if you go back to WePlay. Why do you think it took so long for him to get promoted?
I think it's a very good question. I cannot answer it completely. Maybe they thought he wasn't ready yet, or he just needs a bit more time to develop. Maybe the timing wasn't right. We never really discussed it in like that sense of why he is not here yet. Everyone was kind of confident that he should be here. He's a great player and he has all the skills he needed to like fulfill that role to a high like capacity. But it just didn't really maybe fit. I'm not sure. I wasn't in the decision making. I thought he should come up pretty instantly as well. I mean, I will be very honest. At that time, I believed nearly everyone in the team should have been brought up to a certain period. Like, everyone was playing their role fantastically at that time, and everyone deserved their shot fairly. That's how I looked at it. So I was wondering why not everyone is getting the chance immediately. I mean, it's obvious. It's how it works in sport and in the seasons and all of it. But he should have been there pretty early as well, yeah.
As someone who's been a teammate of his, what do you think of him as a player? Because he's one of those players, believe it or not, that actually fans hate on me because they think I overrate him. Because the problem I have is this. I think if you see him at his best, he's one of the most like impactful players in all of Counter-Strike. He can win you a T-side by himself. But I do get that, like, to a fan, they all think he's like a choker at the majors and stuff. You know, that's why they hate on him. So what is your perspective on xertioN as someone who's played with him?
I think xertioN, I mean, I have a very deep bonding with him. Like, I grew up with, when he was 15, 16, we picked him in NXT, so he's like a really close friend. But try to keep that aside and let's speak more objectively. Like you said, I think he's an incredible T-side player especially. And if he is in his form, he can carry it by himself. The things that kind of people don't really see is the amount of communication he actually puts into the server, especially in game. Like, you had a couple of Twitter clips where he was in the freeze time talking a lot, and people said, "Why is he IGLing or what it is?" I think, I mean, it's demanded in his role, kind of like with Nico as well, taking a lot of charge, coordinating the things. It's very important, but people neglect that he's doing so much. He's very ego-less. He's confident in what he does. He believes he's insane, but he will always go first. He will always die for the team. He will always make something that is for the win, basically. He will always play to win. And that is something that you have to respect a lot, even though sometimes he doesn't put up high numbers, or he is like, you can call it choking. I don't think it's choking, you know, but he's not putting up those numbers. I think he's one of the best in that role particularly, and he's helping the team in ways people are not seeing if they are not playing with him. I think to give him credit, he's one of the best teammates I've had in my career. We had our fair share of discussions. I mean, both of us are very talkative and very like rational thinkers that like to discuss. So of course we had a couple of clashes, but everything was just to win and become a better person. So like, xertioN is a great guy.
Also, from the little I know him from talking to him, I have actually found him, if people are worried that he's a choker, I can tell you, he's not one of those like egotistical players who just ignores all that. Like, he's very aware that, like, he put it this way, he has high expectations of what he demands from himself, right? Like, he knows he should be a better player than that.
Yeah, he's very aware of his surroundings and everything regarding the community even. I mean, he obviously tries to not pay attention to it. I think it's very important to not do it too much, but he sees all of it. He knows when he's not performing to the standards he'd set himself. Like, again, like all the good competitors do. And he's a guy that is very harsh on himself sometimes and very realistic. So yeah, when they are dropping out in a semi, for example, and he's not putting up numbers, the first person he will go to is probably himself, looking at it and what he needs to do better, of course.
As I've tried to stress in this interview, it was one by one or two at a time that people came up from the academy squad. And obviously one of the last people to ever join the squad was suihy ages later. So this is the era when Dexter was still there. And obviously he was there like when you first joined. There was even some successes like the Major and the Dallas the next year, etc. Who was Dexter? What was he like to work with? Because I feel like, again, he's another person that, even though he actually has a big personality in all the memes and stuff, I don't think people really know him that well. Like, I don't think people can describe what sort of captain he is. So what was he like to work with?
I think Dexter, first of all, he was one of the most hardworking guys I've played with. Like he was really putting in the hours, trying to come up with new stuff and trying to make it work. But it really didn't click that well at the time with all the pieces together. I think it just didn't really work out. Sometimes it is like that. I think Dexter itself as a captain, he tried his hardest to make it work, and he was really giving a lot of energy to it. Sometimes though, especially we had a lot of people demanding a lot of stuff, being very vocal about stuff. So it was just maybe too much at times, maybe clashing here. It was like we had Frozen, we had xertioN, people that need space, people that want to talk as well, It's very important. Then Chris Dexter has to make a call around it. We have still like torzsi on the AWP now. He wants some space, it had to kind of mix everything together. And I think at that time it wasn't that easy to do.
By the way, is he someone as an IGL? Is he like more of a loose style caller? Did he try to like have a lot of tactical input to the team? What was he like as an IGL?
It's a very good question, and I think I don't want to bash him in any sense, right? I think that was one of the questions he should have asked himself as well, because it never really sticked out. And I think it was that he was trying to make it work for everyone,
right?
Which is a good trait, but I could never clearly tell. Does he want to be the guy that is fully structured, or does he want to be that loose caller? It varied from time to time, but he really tried to give the people the space that needed it. But I think, like I said, it didn't really work out, and maybe he should have been more strict on what he wants to do and commit to a certain style, so we kind of, as a players, know as well what it really is that we are working towards.
By the way, are you, in this era of the team, are you someone who has like a voice as well? Are you like a secondary caller type figure or some sort of captain type figure in this era?
Unfortunately not, no. At that time, I was a complete support. In Germany, we call it the bitch role, let's say,
sure.
For example. It is how it is. It sounds harsh, right? But it's more of the sacrificial part in the team that will, and like a Magix in Spirit, for example, right? That was my role, and I tried to really get into that mindset, which I struggled with, to be fair. I really gave my all towards being that guy, but I didn't manage it completely. There was some clashes in me trying to not being that vocal in the game, jumping BFs. I tried to be more of a pillar mentally, but going away from secondary calling, microing, all of that stuff. When it wasn't needed. Obviously, you have to do it. Every player should do it in certain stances, but I wasn't the main voice at all, no.
What about, obviously, this is the era when people remember Frozen was really good. It's so funny because obviously in the team before, it used to be, people said that about Rops when Frozen was there, but then when Rops left, it's like Frozen got the chance to just become the man. He had all his spots. In this team, at least, as an outsider, it looked like the whole team was set up for him, bro. Like, he had every fucking possible great position he could have in the game. What was he like to play with? And, like, for example, do you feel like that was the way the team was set up? Was he set up to be the star?
Very good question. Frozen and me are we are close friends to this day. We are in contact a lot. We play a lot together. And he's one of the only guys with xertioN that I really took outside of CS into my real life for a longer period of friendship. But for the only in-game part, obviously he's a great player, right? He has incredible skill ceiling. He's very consistent in what he does. He barely has any off games. So at that time, we all knew that he's the best player in the team. And if you have a piece like him, you have to set him up for success. It wasn't that we talked about it.
Right.
We will all play for him. That wasn't the mentality. We played to win. But of course, we have to enable the best player in the team, which he was at that time. So it wasn't that we made an agreement on it or we forced that system. It just, he could have obviously the freedom to play the positions he wants, as he should, in my eyes, because that's why he's there. He's putting up the numbers, he's fragging, he should be there for that reason. But he was never, which I give him credit to, he had ego, but he was not demanding that. He was not the guy to present it to the team like, you guys are worth less or you are worse than me. He was a guy that was happy, funny, enjoying the moment. He was just very good at the game and try to make it work in the positions, basically.
Right, one thing I want to ask about is, probably, even though in theory probably the semis at the major is the best result, I actually think the IEM Dallas run was pretty epic too, though. The one where you guys made it all the way to the final. You could have won it even. Like, this was a winnable trophy, right? Give me some thoughts about this performance.
The IEM Dallas tournament is a very special one because it was my last tournament in MOUZ. And I mean, we played the Blast Paris Major beforehand, I think, where we had this terrible result. And one of my worst tournaments in my career, I think. I had a very terrible rating. So I knew that there was movement happening now regarding me as well, potentially. It wasn't set in stone. And I'm going to be honest about this because I think it can be out publicly without harming anything. And I just like to speak the truth more than doing the PR stuff. I'm not a big fan of it because if I'm honest, it's off my chest and no one can take it in the wrong way. It's always the truth. So at that time we were like talking about roster changes, me probably like not being good enough in the anchor role. And we were talking that Dallas is the last tournament where we see how standing is.
Right.
Yes, so we went into that tournament with the mindset of it's our last chance to maybe keep the roster alive. And as well for me, at least how I took it, I knew I'm not going to show up that event. I'm going to be benched 100%. So I went into the tournament, giving it my all. It was a great, amazing run. And I'm very happy to be part of that. It was a great tournament. We played out of our minds. I mean, we lost to ENS, which at that time they had a great team. Nerds and Snappy and Sapayos, they were all coming up and making good runs all the tournaments already. It was a tough final. But yeah, I mean, we lost it. And at the end, it turned out the way it did, right?
By the way, the obvious follow-up question, because I was going to ask something similar, since the major was so bad, and obviously this time MOUZ was a top team, it's not like the one where you made the Rio run. This is where people expect MOUZ to be like a playoff team or do some deep run, right? Do you actually, I know it'll sound mad because it was just a final, but if you'd have won that final, do you think they would have given you a bit more time? If you'd have won Dallas?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't blame them. Like, even though I was pissed, to be fair, I mean, it's obvious you're going to be mad about it. It was the right decision for them to do. And I'm not going to pretend like I was a very good anchor. Like, I wasn't, I was okay. I was very rarely doing any mistakes, but I wasn't the guy to carry the game single-handedly on those positions, And I will never pretend like that was me. I brought a lot of stuff into the team outside the server. I worked my ass off to try to be a good player in those positions. But I was not that good enough to justify me continuing playing those roles for a championship winning team. That's just a reality. So them bringing Jimpphat, even though we had a good run, I was mad at the beginning, but just looking at it rationally, it was the right choice for them, and he's a better anchor than me. So
in this tournament, to make the final, you guys had to get a big upset over Heroic, who at the time, by the way, was supposed to be like, I think they were even like number one before that. They were like one of the absolute best teams in the world. And in this game, you did have a good game, mate. This was a pretty epic match, right?
I had a very good tournament in Dallas, actually. Like, I mean, I tried to play a bit freely, and I detached myself, because now we are talking about the ego thing, right? I was really trying to put my ego down, be the in question marks the bitch and the supportive element of the team. But now we're talking about me potentially losing my position in the team, and as well, I don't know if I get another shot. That's what I was thinking at that time, Like, I've been grinding so long for this opportunity, and in my opinion, I was failing at it. I was not putting up the numbers I accept myself to put out. I have extremely high standards, and now it's the do or die kind of scenario. So I'm gonna give all I have in this tournament, but I will increase as well the ego. So now I'm not just jumping with knife all the time in scenarios where I don't have to. I was still playing to win, of course. I'm not saying that. I was not playing for statistics. But if you look at it very only in the in-game aspects of it, I was anchor and lurk, not a real entry. I should have played more of the lurk scenarios, more of the X on X scenarios. But I was really the guy giving a lot of going in first with xertioN and just dying for like Frozen and Dexter being in clutches. So in this tournament, I was really like, I even talked to Dexter before, and I told him I need a bit more space to be a lurk, to actually get into scenarios where I can like potentially shine a bit better. And so I don't go out like this, I want to at least go out in a sense where I tried my best, but I got into positions to showcase what I'm capable of, instead of just being a bystander and just watching it happen while I'm feeling a bit useless in a way, So that was it.
Even though the player that replaced you, as you say, was Jimpphat, and if people remember, he actually had an amazing entry into the team. He was almost immediately the winning tournaments. He was doing his own numbers were. So look, in hindsight, I can't blame them. But actually, the question I had is along the lines of what you were talking about, which is one thing I did feel was a bit harsh when they removed you. Though, is first of all there were more problems in the team than just you, and then also it was so obvious, like you're saying, that you were giving everything for the team. Like essentially, when players like you do those roles, I always say like the stats don't show up for that player because you're doing things like making space for xertioN or helping Thorin or getting torzsi set up, etc. Like, does that part feel like it's harsh when they remove you when you're a player that's doing those sorts of roles?
That's a very good question. It definitely felt harsh. I was pretty upset about it, but it's not a justification because I wasn't playing
right
perfect. Right? It was. You can argue for that point. I mean, I did as well argue for that point myself at that time. But still, there was some small errors that really, really good anchors don't do because they are just expert at the position. Not saying I wasn't there, but I wasn't close to a Robs, for example, on those handling. Obviously not, right? Especially as an anchor. So, yes, it felt terrible because I was a very sacrificial part. Maybe too much at times. I had to evaluate that. If maybe I completely neglected my own identity, my own player, just for the greater good in a way. You know, like, if we break it down very realistically, and this is, I had to learn over the years, I kind of maybe even used it in my own head as an excuse at that time, which turned out to me like accepting stuff I would never be satisfied with otherwise, you know? It was a very deep talk to myself that I had to understand. Maybe I'm the bitch role. I don't need the numbers too high. I'm just doing my job. I'm doing it with love and passion. But maybe I stopped try-harding even more. But that's a very judgmental thing on myself. I don't think that's too much relevancy. But yeah, it felt pretty harsh. But like I said, very understandable though. And I had no hard feelings looking at it now, especially. But I understood that Jimmy is going to do it better. So, and he will maybe not sacrifice that much, but there is more changes to that dynamic. We had Dexter removed, suihy brought in. Suihy was a guy that will sacrifice for the team a bit more. He will run in a lot because he's more of a chaotic player as well, which now enables Jimpphat to be more of a passive element in the team. So it kind of made all sense for the system anyway, and it worked out perfect. So
I mean, yeah, similar question to what you were referencing there is the other way around, though. There's another hindsight move that I think was more obvious, which is why it took so long to put suihy up. Like, look, no hate to Dexter, but some of those results were up and down in his time period, you know. Everyone told me, even in this era, that like the suihy guy's going to be legit and just wait till he gets there. And all the players in this team, and you all loved him and respect him, etc. Why do you think that took so long for them to make that move? Like, couldn't they have done that move a year earlier?
I think a very good question again. Maybe it was a timing thing, but as well, our results, like you said, they were up and down, up and down. And always when I think it happened to be a discussion to maybe change, now we make the semis, you know. Now we did a Cologne playoff run. Now there is slowly, we are making playoffs on all the tournaments, you know. Is it the change that is going to win us championships? I don't think it was, we couldn't guarantee it. Obviously, you cannot. But maybe that was the only reason, to be fair. Like Dexter, like I said, did a tremendous job and he worked his ass off. But it could have been a move maybe done earlier that could have helped everyone in the team. But you can never know. I think it was all just about timing, results as well, season position. And I mean, he was a wanted guy. People wanted him in many teams, not only in MOUZ, but like he went to Gamer Legion on and he had a lot of offers. So
listen, you can say whatever you want. You can say nothing if you want to this question. But as an outsider, but someone who knows some of these people, do you have, and can you say anything about the reason why he was no longer in MOUZ? What happened to? It's still a mystery, bro. No one knows. Like that's up there with like his Bigfoot reel. Like what happened to suihy and MOUZ? We've never had an answer. No one's even ever hinted at it, as far as I can tell. Do you have any clue at all?
I mean, I will just say that it's not my tea to spill, and not my. Okay. It's not my position to talk about. And I think whatever happened between them, and it probably was a very reasonable decision. But I mean, same information as you all guys have and you have. You know, it was a mysterious move. At the time it was made, I didn't understand it because suihy, as well as all the other NXT boys, we were like really close friends, you know, so whatever happened, it had to be a decision, like a very, very important decision with good reasoning behind it. Because we all loved each other to death. We still do, you know. We grew up, we are friends deeply, and we communicated so much outside the server as well. We don't really remove someone lightly unless there is a very good reason to, and it's costing something. So that's all I can say about it.
Right, after this, you went to 00 Nation, which I'll just point out to people is not the Brazilian lineup. This is after when they made the international lineup. And in this team, there's a few players you played with, actually, I want to ask you about. So one of them is, funnily enough, a later on big teammate. It's actually sycrone. You got to play with sycrone at this point in time. There's the weird period when he just wasn't in MOUZ, bizarrely. Big, rather. He was just, this is the one period when he went abroad. What was sycrone like at this point in time?
I think when we first started playing, he was incredible. Like, I mean, he still had that xertioN form that you knew from the big period where he was like ranked 10 on HLTV. He was very experienced, very consistent, and he brought this calmness to a team. Like, especially in 0-0, where we had this like new international project. We had all high expectations, even though we were really just coming kind of from everywhere. You know, me from MOUZ, him from Big. We had Bird from Sky, and it was like a mix of multiple things. But he just brought this just standard good AWPer and a good mentality player that will carry you games, but bring consistency to the team that you can rely on. And I think in the beginning of 0-0 Nation, he was farming everyone as well. Like, I think the first tournament we played with 0-0, we instantly won it. I think it was a Pinnacle Cup. We beat like Astralis, we beat Fourier on the way there in the final, and it was a good teams. So, and he destroyed people. You know, he was a very good player.
And then actually there's a player that maybe more modern day fans will know, which is the player Susp, the Swedish player, but who obviously played for like Wildcard, etc. Who was this guy? Because back then he wasn't really anyone, right? He didn't really have the same profile. So who was this player?
So Susp was, we can kind of call it like a raw diamond. For example, like xertioN in NXT days was one that you pick up, you develop and shape him to, and that he will be really, really good. I think his individual skill ceiling was like nuts, you know. He was shooting pretty hard. He was gifted mechanically. For him, though, it was maybe too early at that time. Like, we picked him up in 0-0 as more of a star player. He should be the guy to bring up the numbers, be the entry fragger. He should be that guy with the guidance of like me on the second star roles now and all of that. But it was too early maybe. Like, he had all the necessary tools, but it struggled from what I've experienced mentally. And he was too little confident for the abilities he had. At least that's how I looked at it. He should have been a bit more confident in himself, especially when things weren't going great, and just believe in himself more, because he should have. And now he's doing it. Now he's the more standard player. He played in Wildcard. He played very well as well. At that time, though, he was not completely flourished yet.
When this roster had finished its time together, was it like underwhelming to you? Should it have achieved more? Could it have gone different places? Because I think a lot of people now forget it and they think you just went straight to big from MOUZ. But how do you look back on your 0-0 Nation time?
To be fair, it was a very important time in my career, even though it was that small. Because it now, like after MOUZ, I made the question to myself: am I good enough? And if I'm not, then maybe I should stop, right? This was I looked at it that way, because now my chance is in my eyes over. I have to grind my way back up again. It's like a second run. And how am I going to do it? You know, what role do I want to take in the team? Do I want to be there? Do I want to continue building up on the anchor thing, or do I go completely away with it? And 0-0 Nation gave me the opportunity to be more of an active player now, be in more of an active role. And it was, though, with all the players we had, it was quite underwhelming, yes. I think we had great people in the team. We had xertioN. We had, like me, bringing experience. We had the Danish Nico, who was very experienced. He had won some tournaments with Heroic. He was there in a long time. He brought high caliber to the team. So our expectation was to go to the at least go to the RMRs at that time, break through. You know, like we won online tournaments, yes, but those are the tournaments that you win now in the tier 2 scene still. You know, like you see Bedboom winning those things. But that was not our expectations at that time. We wanted to be in the major. We wanted to play the big leagues, you know, and we didn't really achieve it. So it was underwhelming, yes.
What was it like? I know at one point in this team you were coached by Pita, the Swedish player, who has a long history in CS. Was that different from working with other coaches?
Yeah, I think Pita, the way like working with Pita was different, because it felt like he's really really into the player. You know what I mean? You could feel the connection between men a bit more deeply, and it felt like he's always there. I don't know how to explain it correctly. Just he was always giving you advice, was always helping you out constantly. It never felt like he was focusing on one guy more or less. It was very equal, spread among everyone. But he was just always extremely positive. This guy, I mean, he's just... I never seen him in a bad mood. I've never seen him in a bad mood. He would bring constant energy to practice. He would set a good standard, and he would do it in a way where it would be very enjoyable. So Pita, I remember him in very high standards. I really enjoyed working with him.
By the way, why is it that it wasn't until after this that you joined Big? Like, could you have joined Big before this, like after MOUZ? Because at the time, they were recruiting all German scene players. It seems like it was an obvious person to pick up. Is there a reason it took you longer to get there?
I really don't know. And I think this goes back to the beginning where we were talking about what people were thinking about me. Because I didn't have the offer from Big when I left MOUZ. They didn't offer it to me, no. And I only got the offer at the very end of 0-0 Nation, when we actually played against Big. And I dropped pretty high numbers in that game. And then it kind of like we got talking. And maybe I was like filling the positions they needed as well in that time. And then we got to know each other. And it kind of went on from there. But like I said, all the players in Big expected a completely different version of me than I actually was, which was kind of not worrying, but it surprised me really, you know.
By the way, in general, I would say, I don't know what other people's perspective, I think you've actually played pretty well in Big most of the time. In fact, early on, there even were times when I saw you dropping big numbers and having very good matches and being one of the better players. Is it something about the environment? Did you refine something about yourself? What would you say?
I mean, I made many changes, I would say. First of all, there was the question if we line it up chronologically. That is a tough word, man. As a German speaker, I cannot get it over my lips. I'm sorry for that. But if we line it up that way, we had 0-0 Nation, where I decided on what kind of role I want to play. And I decided to be still like a more active lurk in a way. Like you can consider it in Germany, we call it second star player, like a Sphinx and MOUZ, a Zontix and Spirit, kind of those roles. I want to be involved in the action, but I'm not going to be the star player, right? So I went along with it in 0-0. It worked out quite well, but now we removed Susp at some point, and we needed the player in the entry positions, star positions. And then another question came up. Do I do it? Do I want to try it? Because we needed it. And Bird from Sky actually said to me, I shouldn't do it.
Okay.
And when he said that to me, I was like, all right, that's interesting, because now this is the opportunity to maybe do it. I've never done it in my career, only in the lower German teams. And I see a lot of potential in it, but when is a better time to try it than now, right? So just give me the chance, let's try it out. I did it, I was dropping good numbers, and I noticed that it fits me naturally pretty well. I like to communicate a lot. I like to be very active on the map and vocal with the team. So it helped me fix many mistakes I had in the past without me knowing I was doing them. It came along with being very quiet, for example. I was maybe not as focused anymore. I was maybe a little bit more... I was never a tilter, but in my own head, I was very harsh on myself. And that happened because I was not that involved in the game to the extent I want to be. So yeah, from then, it kind of happened. I'm taking on those star positions in a way. Went to Big... not in those positions. Again, into the second star role. And after playing a while, I was still performing decently, right? I was playing for the standards I set myself, I was happy. And we were playing well. But now again, we benched Process. We needed that roles. And I'm like, okay, give me the chance, you know? We had Krimbo in the team at that time, who was supposedly like one of the best individual German players we have, right? So it was, maybe him should do it as well. You know, one of those guys that have firepower should take on that opportunity. We had Kakafu as a coach in that time. He said, you should give it a shot. Like, you just try it out. What is the worst that can happen? You just drop a couple of bad, like, you are not meant to do it. You drop back to your old roles, you will do fine, right? And yeah, I committed to it. I think it is the right thing for me, especially in the moment. I've never enjoyed playing like Counter-Strike that much since a long time. And it feels like I have it more in my own hands now, what we are doing, how we are playing, and just giving the energy I give feels easier when I talk a lot. You know, I want to be that positive, hypey guy, and it's very easy to do if you are mainly speaking and mainly like communicating a lot. So yeah, I'm committing to the star roads for now, especially in big, and just seeing where it takes me. I'm just trying to become one of those players I set myself 4 years ago, where I was thinking about maybe being it. I'm just trying to work my way up now to those things.
Since tabseN has been in big for so long and the German scene for so long, I feel like everyone thinks they know him and they think they know what type of players. But what's it actually like to play under tabseN as a leader? What is he like?
Well, I mean, first of all, he's a great guy. I mean, especially outside the server, he's very enjoyable. Like, you can just vibe with him. He's funny. He's just chill, Going towards the CS now, I think as a captain, everyone is memeing. Big is so structured. Big is so this and that. They always play this slow, structured, systematic style. They don't know anything else, which, to be fair, was true at sometimes. We are Germans, we rely on system, we rely on consistency, we rely on structure and game plan, which when I joined as well was the idea of bringing me in is to mix up those identities, to bring now the learn MOUZ international system, the 0-0 nation internationality to big. We combine our visions and we work out a evolved big clan, That was the idea. And he has been, as a caller, he's not anymore, but as a caller at that time, he really tried to mix it together and make it work. But it wasn't that easy because he has been playing a certain way as well for a very long time. It's in his DNA, and he as well is a strong-minded person. He's very confident, which I think a leader should be. He has many good leadership traits, by the way. Like he's excellent in being that voice of a team and being the face and the captain. And he believed the way he wants to play is the right way, so he said we're gonna do it. And I think that's great. He should have done it at that time. But we always stagnated at some point. We fell into old patterns. We were playing a bit of a systematic approach, and it never really felt like we can beat any of those top teams consistently, right? And yeah, other than that, great IGL. He had some, I said it in public as well, he has some flaws like everyone, right? But with dexter, most hardworking person I've seen. I think this guy, we are on a boot camp. He's there 12 hours a day at least. He's skipping through the demo tool a lot. He's very informed on the meta, very informed about every detail in the game. He's really trying to make it work. And that's all I can say about tabseN so much.
Is it true that he is a very demanding leader, though?
I think I would say so, yes. There is a mixture of it because he wants to give the space as well, and he wants to try it out. But like I said, he puts in the effort. He's extremely clever in the game. So he obviously believes that what he knows and how he wants to approach is right. So yes, he's definitely demanding, and he expected as an IGL certain stuff happening in his terms, in his idea, on his timings with the game plan he had, yes.
Also in this team, you referenced them already, but a player I'm very interested in, and obviously, again, a lot of stuff from the German scene just doesn't get out into the wider space. I think one of the most mysterious players is Krimbo, bro, because whenever I watched him in that team, he's like unbelievably good, mate. There's that, like, for real, I used to think, when I used to see all these other top teams, it would be like, fucking G2 or some giant, but they'd all be like, we're looking for an anchor player. I'd be like, just get this guy, mate. He's already doing it, like, on a lesser team, and his numbers are great. Eye test looks great. Who is this player? Like, does he have a stars mentality? Does he know how good he is? Why did he stay big so long? Did everyone in big know he was good? What do you think about this guy? Give me some thoughts.
Well, Krimbo, I think, like you said, he's very good individually, and like he's a great player in his roles. I think his mentality is that he really believes he's a good player, and he believes that he understands the game on a high level. So if you can call it a championship mentality because he believes he's the best in what he does. And that's a good thing. I think you should have that. Apart from that, like I said, he has a unique style of playing. He plays the positions in his way, and it works because he is him. He's Krimbo. He plays it that way, and it works for him because he's good enough to do it. Why he never got picked up? He had multiple offers. He just decided to decline it, right? There was this 2023, I think it was, or 24, Vitality knocking on his door. He had offers from G2. He decided to decline it out of, I think, loyalty to the team because he felt home there. It is how it is. The big thing, the environment is a family environment.
It's not a meme, right? You guys actually have like dinners and stuff, like because the people have seen this not just with tabseN now. People have been very loyal to this team. Like it's clearly more than just being like a sports team and you move on if you get a better offer, right?
Yes, I mean, especially back then, like when I joined, it was still that way. We are transitioning a bit more away from that, to be very real. I think Big has been saying the same, because at the end of the day, it is a sports industry and you have to perform and you have to put up numbers. That's just how the system works, unfortunately, right? But at that time, definitely a family team. They had dinners all together. On the boot camps, they were eating all together. The managers, the staff, everyone was there, and it was more than a team. And I think to have that environment is very unique and very special, so I can understand why you would stay loyal to that. Me as a person, if I was in his position at that time, I would have been loyal to that team as well, like regarding the offers that came in.
One of the downsides of this era of big is this is actually when, because the whole game went super international, you had a bazillion teams competing for all the invite spots for the lands, etc. And so sadly in this era, you didn't get to go to that many of the big lands, or if you did, it would just be like, the first week of a pro league or something. So I figure it must have been a big deal to get into that major at the end of last year, the Shanghai major. Like to qualify must be a big deal, right?
Yes, that was one of the biggest things for us in a long time. I mean, like you said, we were like, even though we were up in the rankings, not like right now, but we were up in the rankings, we were still there. First week of Pro League, we were still struggling because we were working to be winners. It sounds delusional and like far away, but that's just what you work for every day, right? We're not going into Pro League hoping that we make the first stage and that's it. So it was a very underwhelming period. We were struggling mentally because now if you lose this much consistently, you start really questioning a lot, right? You start questioning system, you start questioning personalities, you start questioning everything. So it was with Rigon we made the Shanghai major, right? It was Rigon sycrone lineup. There we had, in my eyes, a lot of tools in order to beat everyone and to upset many teams. We had sycrone, who was putting decent numbers, not to the standard he used to, but he was still very good. We had tabseN as a fragging IGL. He puts up numbers, or like he shoots harder than most of the IGLs, at least from how I look at it. And we had Krimbo and me in fragging positions, and now Rigon as well, bringing a lot of firepower, right? So it should have been good, and it turned out to be very good.
In theory, that should probably be the best roster Big ever had. That's a really good roster of players, like you said, top to bottom, right?
Yeah, I mean, the best roster probably was the xantares roster back then when they got rank 1. It's like xantares and sycrone in the prime. It was like debatably the best lineup ever. But until that part, from then to now, it was one of the strongest lineups we had until the Shanghai major, definitely, A lot of experience, multiple different like experiences outside of teams. Rigon bringing in a very fresh, unique way from the whole Bad News Eagles squad, how they approached the game. I mean, it was like day and night, right? Rigon had a completely different approach to CS than Bigland, for example. So it was pretty refreshing. And definitely, Shanghai was a really good result. Every one of us was more than happy. We went Legends 3-0, and then it was kind of this dilemma where we got dropped Legends stage because of this rule change or whatever it was. So we had to go another stage, and where we qualified 3-2, beating Complexity in the last match. And I think it was a great result, It was amazing for us.
Right. What would you explain about what is essentially, this is the big mystery to me. On paper, that roster looks amazing. Like I said, I think when that happened, I even did a video myself. I was like, this is probably the best like German speaking lineup they've ever had. Like this actually should be like a top 10 team. It looks like it's capable of it. As you say, all the roles even made sense. No one's doing like a role where they shouldn't do that, or they do it because they have to. Everyone's in like the role that they're doing the best. So I know it's a super wide open question without answers, but I have to ask you, what do you think went wrong with this squad? Why could that squad not continue on? Because you'll see, it only felt like it was each few months Beast would be moved or leave or someone else would come back. What do you think went wrong with that core or that roster?
I think what went wrong, the players are very good, but we had, even though it kind of made sense, a role clash. And that was because we had Rigon being he wanted to be a room taker,
right,
and not an anchor,
right?
And now we have a clash in roles for the reason that we have tabseN playing many of the rotation roles. He's not the traditional IGL at that time, playing many anchor spots. So we need a CT anchor now with Krimbo that will manage both sides of the map. And Rigon was that guy in our team filling those anchor spots, which doesn't suit him at all. Like, not in a negative way. but it's like he's not meant to play those roles. He has great mechanics. He needs to take duels. He needs to move on the map. So we had a role clash there already. Since as well on T side, he was as well lurking a little bit. We mixed it up on many maps. Since I was the room taker when he joined, like I was the entry fragger, I gave a couple of positions to him on T side so he can feel more comfortable. Let's say Dust 2 Lower, Mirage Underground, the primary room taker positions. So I went more into lurk, but we still had the CT clash. We still had CT anchoring missing. I really didn't want to do it since I thought I'm not good at it as well. And basically then we had to make a decision, right? He was pretty unhappy because it was not what he wanted to play as well. And he said he wanted to do it in the beginning, but it is not laid out for him to do. And it just didn't make too much sense in my eyes. He shouldn't have done it. So it was not fair to him in a way. And we had a good talk about it where we agreed on those things. So for that, we had a role clash we had to fix, which needs a lurk/anchor player. And then we had xertioN, who was removed in the same period with Rio together for hyped. And that was as well because, xertioN was a great player, but he was not putting up the numbers at that time we needed him to put up to be competitive. Like, really, really competitive to the level where we want to go. It might sound harsh, and he has the high standards for himself, but we wanted to go deeper than just the legend stage. It was a great success for us, yes, of course, but the amount of work we were putting into it as a team, the grinding hours on bootcamp, we were working really, really tirelessly. It wasn't enough to say we made legends, we are happy. And if we looked at it, everything, he was not putting up the numbers we needed from him. And even though he's a great player, we thought a younger individual with really high skill ceiling as in hyped will bring this numbers and the energy and the star player potential as an AWPer that we were lacking a little bit.
The player that obviously now plays the AWP in big is this Belarusian player called Grix, who people will know himself came from the same crew of people of when the Molodoys and the World Cup. Basically, these people were picking from the same players. This was like the pool of AWPers because for whatever reason, everyone in CS has decided you just get Eastern European AWPers. That's like the position now. Who knows why? It's just the new talent position to get. Who is this guy though? Because I think some people are confused because of his heroic period. Like he was supposed to be the star there, and then he was barely in the team. It's like he had a cup of coffee and then he was out. So who is this guy and is he going to be the star of big? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it's definitely the idea. That guy is incredibly skilled individually. I don't want to hype it too much up because I'm afraid of jinxing actually. All the time I hype something up very drastically, we get smoked. So I'm not going to push it out too much, but we have great results with him since he joined. We haven't played against that high of a competition yet, but since the change of bringing in Freeze and bringing in Grix, we won every game online so far. Notable teams we beat was was BC Game, maybe Imperial, but we didn't play with Grix there. But this guy, he's hungry for success. He really wants a shot at bigger tournaments. I think, individually speaking, just watching him play officials and practice, he is really, really far ahead. He's incredibly skilled. I'm not going to push him too hard. We have to see how he develops and plays, but he definitely can be our star player, our carry for the future tournaments.
I understand within big, tabseN eventually gave up being the IGL, and within that team, obviously he used to just be everything. He was the captain, he was the fragger, he was the IGL. Right? Is it a too forward a question to ask? It feels obvious at some point in your career you will become an IGL. Is it true? Do you think it'll happen? Is that just a speculation? Am I off point here? What would you say?
It's a good question. I think there is a very high chance of me becoming an IGL in the future. To be honest, I really don't want to do it, especially now. Okay. I can see myself doing it later on in my career 100%. But right now, I'm in a position where I'm thinking about, I really want to be that star player rifler. I really want to give it my everything. And I want to die on that hill. And I want to say at the end, all right, it wasn't enough. I'm not good enough to hold with the big guys. Now I have to reevaluate, and maybe it's time to step back, maybe become an IGL at that period. But this is far in the future. It has been discussed. We talked about the idea. Since I talk a lot as well, but it is not something I see myself doing right now. And yeah.
Since, as we said, in MOUZ especially, you had such extreme roles that you really were the ultimate sacrificial player. Do you think people don't know who you are as a player now? Like maybe they don't know you changed roles, etc. Like it seems like in big, maybe you've got a bit more under the radar.
I think so, yes. But to me, like it's just how it goes, and how I look at it is maybe a bit harsh on myself. But if I haven't made that swap in the eyes of the people yet, I'm just not good enough yet. I mean, I'm putting out the very good numbers right now, and I'm playing statistically well, but it's against the CCT opposition. It's against the like proving grounds opposition. It's not against the kind of MOUZ, the top teams in tournaments. I'm not in the pro league. I'm not in those level tournaments putting up those numbers. So how I look at it, yes, people are judging me based on MOUZ. They still think I'm an anchor sometimes. I mean, I read like Twitch, I'm playing full entry positions, and those guys are like, he's the anchor. I'm like, no, I'm not anymore. It changed. But how I look at it, I'm not good enough yet for people to recognize it. So I will just stay low. I'm not going to try to promote it out. It's just, it comes naturally. If I'm good enough, people will start speaking about it and people will see it. And but 100% I'm getting judged based on what was and not what is currently, yes.
Right, it's been the case for the last, I'd say, probably 2 years that MOUZ's main team now could win the major. Like they're obviously good enough. They've even won tournaments against all those same teams in past years. They just have never done it yet. They've never gotten over the line, right? I know this is a weird question because it hasn't happened yet, but I feel like it's inevitable. Some of those players will win the major one day. If they do, listen, you're friends with some of them. Would you be able to just be happy for them? Would be a part of it's bittersweet that you can't be there? What would you say in that sense?
I would be 100% happy for them. Like to this day, I always like xertioN, especially that I just wish him the best and all the success in the world. I'm not a very how do you call it? I'm not jealous. Okay. I'm really not. I look at it very rational. Again, it's business. It is sport, and those guys deserve it, even though it sucks for me. I would love to be up there. Of course, it's my biggest dream. I'm competing for it. But it doesn't change the fact that those guys are my friends, many of them. Some of them are not, but like Brolin, I don't know that well. Jimmy, I talked a couple of times, but like those guys are working in the same field as me. They're putting in the numbers and the hours. They deserve it, and I really just wish him. Like I'm very happy to see them winning, honestly. I think the day they win a major, it will feel like part of myself is still in that, and I'm very happy for them, So that's how I look at it. But of course, I hope for myself to be at that position one day. And if it comes face to face, I'm going to try my hardest to whoop them,
One thing maybe some people aren't aware of, maybe they only know your alias, is you actually are part Portuguese as well. And I saw elsewhere you did say that, look, obviously you're not super fluent speaking it, but you can understand it, right? Look, I realise at this point in your career the answer's no, but there's not only Portuguese teams, there's sorts out, but there's all those Brazilians as well. If at some point in the future, would you even be interested? Would you ever try to play in a Portuguese speaking team if the opportunity was there? Is there anything you've thought about?
I thought about it, and it's very interesting because it has to really fit, because I will need some time to get the language to a proper level. Understanding is not an issue. The Brazilians are a bit tougher than the original Portuguese
because of the accent
is different.
Right,
yes. So okay. I can, in an elevator, if I talk to the Brazilian guys, they talk a bit slower. I understand everything, but it's in the competition, in heat, when we talk fast. Maybe it was not. I would need 3 months, maybe 4, spending time with the guys, talking a lot, so I rebuild the language skills. And when I was 15, 16, I could speak the language completely fluent, but that's been nearly 10 years, and only speaking German and English has kind of cleansed my mind off of thinking in Portuguese, finding the right vocabulary to pronounce words, and it would be messy, but it is not out of the world, I thought about it when nothing is really colliding. Maybe I'll go that route, because it might be my last chance to prove. So I will work on language skills. I will work on that to make my dream work. But very unrealistic, though.
Just worth asking for the trivia. Okay, at the end of this interview, do you have any final message for people? Do you want to say hello or thank anyone?
Final message. I would just say thank you to you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for all the guys cheering and supporting, especially the big fans that are with us in a very rough period right now. We are going through to hell and back, so all the loyal supporters, not just bashing us for hate, are very appreciated. And a big shout out to the MOUZ boys. They are still my friends, and I wish them all the best. And finally, a big shout out to my girlfriend, who's been actually an incredible part in the journey, helping me a lot, and just being there for me, and just doing a good job in keeping me sane sometimes, because I'm a grinder, you know. I like to go crazy.
Dankeschön.
Dankeschön, bitteschön.
Now, you know you never catch me dolo online because I'm rolling deep and we dem boys. Who am I talking about? The Illuminati. So this video and the content on my channel is kindly supported by Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Toucan, Jensen Gore, Nikki, Jason, you know who my second in command is, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for some of my content? Would you like to ask me a question in an AMA? Do you want to take part in one of those lengthy discussions where you get to set the topic? Maybe you want to see who upcoming guests are in my interviews and on my talk shows. Well, all of these perks and more are available to you if you put your money where your mouth is and join the Illuminati today. How? Via the Patreon link in the description box below. You dig?